On Christmas Day, while the whole family laughed and passed around plates, my mom looked at me, mid-bite of the turkey I paid for, and said, "You need to move out." No warning. No reason. Just a cold sentence delivered with the same ease as asking for more gravy. Everyone went silent. My fork froze halfway to my mouth, and she smiled, like she had been waiting all year to say it. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I didn't even finish my plate. The next morning, I packed my things and left without a single word. But what my mom didn't know was this. I had already been recording every bill, every mortgage payment, every grocery receipt, because I knew the day would come when the truth would speak louder than anything I could ever say. And that day arrived sooner than she expected. Right at my new apartment door. You are welcome. If you are just joining us, please do well to subscribe so you won't miss out in any of our mind-blowing episodes. Christmas in my family was supposed to be warm, loud, and messy. The kind of chaotic holiday where kids are running around, uncles are arguing about football, and my mom is pretending her cooking didn't set the smoke alarm off earlier. But that year things felt off. I noticed it the moment I walked in carrying the bags of groceries I bought. My mom didn't greet me. My siblings barely looked up. My uncle, who usually hugged me so tightly I lost air, just muttered a hey. It felt like walking into a party you weren't invited to. Still, I brushed it off. It had been a long year. Money was tight for everyone except me, apparently. I was the only one working full-time. The only one paying the mortgage to keep our house from being repossessed. The one covering the electricity bill, the water, the internet, even the groceries for holidays like this. I never complained. Not once. Because family was family, right? We sat down for dinner. The turkey smelled good, not because Mom cooked it well, she didn't, but because I bought it from the gourmet store across town. Everyone grabbed their plates. Everyone dug in. And then, right as I finally took my first bite, my mom cleared her throat dramatically. "Kelvin," she said. I looked up, smiling a little. "Yeah." She set down her fork with a click. "You need to move out." Just like that. For words, sharp as a knife slicing into the holiday we were supposed to be enjoying. The room went dead silent. My sister's fork froze. My uncle coughed on his drink. Even the kids stopped moving. I stared at her, my smile dropping slowly. "Really?" She crossed her arms like she'd been rehearsing this. "Yes. You're old enough. You make enough money. It's time you left." I kept my voice calm. Too calm. "I pay the rent. I pay the bills. I pay for the food we're eating right now." Mom shrugged. "And that's what children are supposed to do when they live with their parents. But you can do all that somewhere else. Somewhere else. Somewhere not here. Somewhere not home." She said it like she was discussing the weather. I felt every pair of eyes watching me. Waiting, expecting, maybe even hoping for a fight. But I didn't give them one. I put down my fork, wiped my mouth, and simply said, "Okay." That was it. No shouting. No crying. Nothing. Because sometimes silence hits harder than screaming. My mom smirked, thinking she'd won. Thinking she'd humiliated me in front of everyone. But she forgot one thing. I never lose my calm unless I'm done with someone. And that night I was done. The next morning, before the sun even rose, I packed my bags quietly. No goodbyes. No explanations. No dramatic exit. I walked out of the house I paid for, and into a life they never expected me to have. Because revenge wasn't yelling. Revenge was success. And mine was already on the way. The morning after Christmas felt nothing like a holiday. It felt like a quiet escape. I woke up before anyone else. Not that it mattered. My mom never woke early unless there was gossip to spread or someone else's problem to complain about. I stood in my room, the room I paid for, the room I kept warm through the winter because I paid the heating bill. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was home. I felt like a tenant. A walking checkbook. A convenience with a pulse. So I packed. Not dramatically. Not angrily. Just intentionally. My laptop. My files. My clothes. My receipts, yes, all of them. Every payment, every bill, every month I covered the cost of running that house. I didn't know exactly when I'd need them, but I knew I eventually would. By the time the sun started peeking through the curtains, my whole life fit into 2 suitcases and a small backpack. And then came the moment I knew would sting them more than any confrontation. I walked straight out the front door. Calm. Quiet. Unbothered. No note. No thanks for the memories. Not even a goodbye. They wanted me gone? Perfect. I was gone. My new place was a small apartment across town. Nothing fancy, but the peace felt expensive. The silence felt like luxury. The freedom felt like oxygen. I unpacked slowly, letting the reality sink in. No more paying their bills. No more footing their grocery list. No more pretending their love wasn't conditional. No more being the family ATM. I made coffee, sat on the floor, and for the first time in ages smiled. This was my life now. Mine. All mine. But peace never lasts long when people think they own you. At 10 a.m., my phone started blowing up. First it was my sister. Are you serious? You just left? Then my uncle. Kelvin, your mom is freaking out. Call her. Then my mother. A voice message. I didn't play it. Not then. Instead, I unpacked a few more boxes and turned on the TV, enjoying the rare feeling of not being responsible for anyone but myself. But the universe wasn't done testing me. Around noon, a pounding shook my front door. Not knocking. Pounding. I looked through the peephole and felt my stomach tighten. My mom, my sister, and my uncle, all standing in the hallway of my new building like they were about to perform an exorcism. For a moment, I considered pretending I wasn't home. But something in me, the part that had stayed silent for too long, knew the time for quiet obedience was over. I opened the door halfway. My mom didn't even say hello. She shoved her way in like she still owned the air I breathed. What the hell do you think you're doing? She snapped. I leaned against the doorframe, calm as ice. Exactly what you told me to do. My sister shot me a glare. You can't just leave the house. Actually, I said. That's exactly what you asked me to do. My mom scoffed. You weren't supposed to take it seriously. You ruined Christmas. I almost laughed. Oh, so it was a joke? Throwing me out on Christmas Day. The room went silent. She wasn't expecting pushback. She wasn't expecting confidence. She wanted the old Kelvin, the obedient provider who swallowed disrespect like vitamins. But he was gone, and the look on her face told me she knew it. My uncle stepped forward awkwardly. Kelvin, your mom just wants to talk. No, she cut in. I want him to come back home and fix what he broke. I looked at her then, not angry, not emotional, just done. Mom, I didn't break anything. I just stopped pretending everything wasn't already broken. Her eyes narrowed. You think you're better than us now? Because you have your own place? Because you think you can survive without us? I held her gaze. I know I can. The silence that followed was thick, bitter, and heavy. And for the first time, they realized they couldn't control me anymore. But they weren't going to back down. Not yet. Not when they needed something. Something they hadn't admitted. Not yet. My family left my apartment that day frustrated, embarrassed, and worst of all, exposed. But their anger didn't stay at the door. It spread. Fast. By the next morning, the entire family group chat had turned into a courtroom drama with only one defendant. Me. And the charges? Carefully crafted lies. The first message I woke up to came from my aunt. Kelvin, why would you abandon your mother after she's sacrificed everything for you? Sacrificed everything? I almost laughed. But as I scrolled, my amusement dissolved. Message after message poured in. Your mom said you threatened to leave the house empty on Christmas. She said she begged you to stay and you stormed out. She told us you refused to help the family anymore. You left her crying on the floor, Kelvin. Crying on the floor? The only crying she did was when she realized she couldn't boss me around anymore. Then came the one that hit me like a punch. You should be ashamed. Your mother is telling everyone how she raised you alone. Alone? I paid the mortgage. I paid the utilities. I paid for every holiday meal. I even paid for her emergencies that magically aligned with shopping sales. Alone? She'd never been alone a day in her life as long as I lived under that roof. But she wasn't done. Not even close. My phone buzzed again, this time with the message that made my blood go cold. A screenshot. A giant paragraph written by my mother and posted to the family Facebook group. Kelvin abandoned me on Christmas after everything I've done for him. He walked out and left me with bills, left us with nothing. Pray for me and my heart. Hundreds of reactions. Dozens of comments. People calling me ungrateful, disrespectful, heartless. She had turned herself into the victim, and me into the monster. The part that stung wasn't the lies themselves. It was how easily people believed them. I sat there on my new apartment floor, surrounded by half-open boxes, takeout containers, and the quiet glow of morning, and felt something inside me collapse into a sharp, cold clarity. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a temporary conflict. This wasn't a family issue we could talk through. This was character assassination. My mother wanted control, not understanding. She wanted obedience, not peace. She wanted my wallet, not my presence. And when she lost access to me, she used the only weapon she had left. The story. If she couldn't control me anymore, she would control the narrative. And she was good at it. She'd been practicing all her life. By noon, I had 7 missed calls from cousins, 5 voice messages from relatives I barely talked to, and 1 long, guilt-drenched text from my grandmother. Kelvin, honey, your mother says you hurt her deeply. Maybe you should apologize before this gets worse. Apologize. The world really does bend toward whoever cries first, doesn't it? What none of them knew, what none of them wanted to know, was the truth. I had been keeping that house afloat for an entire year. I had been the one sacrificing quietly. I had been carrying them. But they didn't want the truth. They wanted the version of the story that made them comfortable. And that version required one villain. Me. That night, I finally listened to my mother's voice message from the day before. Her voice was shaking, not with sadness, but with rehearsed emotion. Kelvin, you humiliated me today. People are asking questions I can't answer. Come home. Fix this. Or everyone will think you abandoned your family. I replayed it twice. She didn't ask if I was okay. She didn't ask why I left. She didn't ask what she had done. She only cared about how she looked. And in that moment, something inside me hardened. I wasn't going back. Not now. Not ever. But I also knew. This was only the beginning. There were things they still wanted from me. Things they were planning. The lies were just the warm-up. The real storm hadn't even started. 3 days after the family meltdown, I expected things to calm down. They didn't. If anything, they escalated. Hard. It was a quiet Thursday morning. I had just finished unpacking the last box in my apartment. A symbolic moment. A small declaration that this was my space now. I didn't owe anyone an explanation. I didn't owe anyone an apology. I didn't owe anyone a return home. I thought I'd finally have a moment of peace. But peace didn't knock. My mother did. The pounding on my door started like thunder. Loud, frantic, and way too early. It jolted me out of the serene bubble I had been slowly building. At first, I didn't move. I stared at the door, wondering if ignoring it would make her vanish. Then came her voice. Shrill. Familiar. Loaded with accusation. Kelvin. Open this door right now. Of course she came. Of course she didn't call first. Of course she didn't ask if it was a good time. My mother never arrived to talk. She arrived to demand. I took a deep breath and walked to the door, but I didn't open it fully. I cracked it just enough to meet her glare. Her eyes scanned the apartment behind me like she owned it. Like she had rights to it. Why are you here? I asked calmly. She brushed past the question and tried to push the door open wider. I blocked it with my foot. That made her freeze. Not because she couldn't move me, but because no one had ever stopped her before. She folded her arms and put on her suffering mother face. The one she used when she wanted to manipulate a room. We need to talk, she said. Inside. No, I replied. Say it here. Her eyes widened, offended. Kelvin, stop being dramatic. I'm still your mother. Exactly. Not my landlord. Not my owner. And not someone who gets to barge in. She huffed loudly, then lowered her voice as if someone was watching. You made a fool of me in front of the family. I blinked slowly. I didn't make a fool of you. You lied about me. Big difference. Her jaw tightened. She hated when I didn't rise to her provocations. Then her tone shifted, cold, calculated. I came because I need the keys to the house. There it was. The real reason. Not reconciliation. Not understanding. Not even guilt. Control. She continued. Since you abandoned your responsibilities, someone else needs access to your room. Your cousin Daniel is moving in. He deserves the space more than someone who ran away. I felt something inside me go still. That's fine, I said. But I'm not giving you anything. Her eyes flared. You will give me those keys. I own that house. I shook my head slowly. I paid the mortgage for an entire year. Every bill. Every maintenance issue. Every grocery. And you want to tell people you raised me alone? Her lips twitched, anger fighting embarrassment. Then she snapped. You owe me everything. I gave you life. And I gave you stability, I replied. We're even. Her face twisted into disbelief. Not because of the words, but because she had lost her grip on me. She wasn't expecting resistance. She wasn't expecting boundaries. She definitely wasn't expecting me to close the door. So I did. Gently. Not slamming. Just firm enough to build a wall between us. She lost it. Pounding, yelling, calling my name like she owned it. Kelvin. You're destroying this family. Come back and fix this. Everyone thinks you're heartless. I let her shout. I let her voice get smaller and smaller as I walked toward my living room. And eventually, she stopped. But she didn't leave. My phone buzzed moments later with a text from her. If you think you can walk away that easily, you're wrong. The family is meeting on Sunday. You will be there. We're settling this once and for all. A family meeting. Of course. They always held meetings when they needed a scapegoat. I stared at the message. Old Kelvin would have gone. Old Kelvin would have apologized. Old Kelvin would have bent himself into a shape that made everyone else comfortable. But I wasn't old Kelvin anymore. Still, I had no idea that Sunday's meeting would expose more than just lies. It would expose the one secret my mother had been hiding for years. And when it surfaced, the entire family would turn on her. Not me, her. Sunday arrived with the heaviness of a storm that didn't bother to hide its intentions. If the invitation to this family meeting had come from anyone else, maybe I would have hesitated. But the fact that my mother ordered me to show up, well, that made the decision easy. Not because she had authority over me anymore, but because something told me she wasn't calling a meeting to solve anything. She was calling it to condemn me, to twist the narrative, to make me the villain. I had seen these meetings before. They always had the same structure. 1. My mother cries. 2. She accuses me. 3. Everyone comforts her. 4. I'm told to apologize. 5. She walks away as the victim. But not today. Not this time. Not after everything that happened. I arrived at my Aunt Melissa's house, the unofficial family headquarters. Cars lined the driveway. Voices murmured behind closed blinds. They were all here. Perfect. I walked inside without knocking. Everyone turned to look at me, as if I had interrupted a sacred ceremony. My mother sat in the center of the living room like a queen on a throne, wearing her favorite pitty blue blouse, the one she wore every time she wanted sympathy. Her eyes lit with satisfaction when she saw me walk in. She thought she'd won. I took a seat near the window. Silent. Calm. Observant. Aunt Melissa began the meeting the same way she always did. We're here to resolve a family matter. My mother sniffed loudly and dabbed her eyes, though there were no tears. Here we go. Kelvin, she said, voice brittle. I raised you alone. I sacrificed everything for you. And you repaid me by abandoning the home I gave you. Lies. But I stayed quiet. She continued. You humiliated me. You called me a liar. You locked me out of your apartment like a criminal. Gasps filled the room. Aunt Melissa scowled at me. My cousin Daniel whispered, ungrateful. Uncle Warren folded his arms like a judge waiting for a confession. Good. Let them show their bias early. My mother leaned back dramatically. All I'm asking, is for my son to apologize. To come home. To respect this family again. And there it was. The trap. I leaned forward. Calm. Controlled. Unmoved. I'm not apologizing, I said softly. The room erupted. Kelvin, how dare you? What is wrong with you? That woman raised you. My mother pretended to sob harder. A performance worthy of an Oscar. I let the noise swell. Then slowly raised my hand. Silence rippled across the room. Are we done? I asked. Or do you want to hear the truth? Aunt Melissa glared. What truth? I reached into my bag and pulled out a folder. My mother's face drained of color. She recognized it instantly. I stood up and placed the papers on the coffee table. Since we're talking about the home I abandoned, I said, maybe you should all know who's actually been paying for it. I opened the folder. One by one, I laid down bank statements, receipts, mortgage records, all showing my name, my account, my money, for 12 months straight. Gasps, confusion, shock. But I wasn't done. I placed one last paper on the table, a letter from the bank, confirming that my mother had tried to withdraw my savings account 2 weeks earlier using forged documents. My mother's breath hitched. The room fell silent. Dead silent. I looked directly into her eyes. You didn't ask me to move out because you wanted me to grow up, I said. You kicked me out so you could take the last thing I had, my account. Her mask shattered. It's not what it looks like, she croaked. Yes, I said. It's exactly what it looks like. Aunt Melissa leaned forward, voice trembling. Is this true? My mother looked around frantically, panic rising in her throat. I did it for all of us. He has money. I needed help. I looked at the room. And where were all of you when I was paying for the entire house? The bills? The groceries you all came to eat every Sunday? Did any of you ever ask how I was coping? No one spoke. Not one person defended her. The power shift was complete. For the first time in my life, my mother wasn't the victim. She was exposed. And the family who always believed her without question, now stared at her like a stranger. And this was only the beginning. For 2 weeks after I moved into my new apartment, the silence from my family was louder than any argument we'd ever had. No calls. No texts. No how are you settling in? Nothing. It was as if I'd never existed. Like the year I spent paying their mortgage, utilities, groceries, repairs, and emergencies had been erased clean from the family history books. But I didn't chase them. I didn't explain myself. I didn't try to defend my decision to walk away. I finally had peace. A kind of peace I didn't realize I'd been craving for years. My small apartment wasn't fancy, but every inch of it felt like mine. My plates. My bed. My air. And most importantly, my space. Still, every now and then, a familiar ache would hit me, usually late at night, when I remembered that Christmas table, the betrayal in my mother's voice, and the look on my siblings' faces. The way everyone let me take the fall without a word. The way no one questioned her. No one asked why, or how, or if she was serious. But the biggest ache was this. I realized that they weren't shocked because it was unfair. They were shocked because they expected me to obey. Just like always. Just like I had for years. And for the first time in my life, I didn't. The message that cracked the silence. On a quiet Tuesday morning, my phone buzzed for the first time in days. It was a text from my cousin Melissa. What did you do to your mom? She's telling everyone you abandoned her after all she's sacrificed. I stared at the message for a long, heavy moment. There it was. The lie. The predictable narrative. The twist of the knife I'd always known was coming. My mom wasn't just silent. She was rewriting the story, painting me as the ungrateful child who walked out without warning, the villain of her family drama. And everyone was eating it up. I typed back. Ask her who paid the mortgage last year. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then came back, then stopped completely. I knew she'd gone straight to my mother for an explanation. And I knew exactly what my mother would say. That's not true. He's exaggerating. He only helps sometimes. He's confused. He's trying to make me look bad. My mother hated only one thing more than being questioned. Being exposed. The knock. That evening, around 9 p.m., there was a knock at my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. No one knew my address except my landlord and my boss. A second knock. Harder. More urgent. I froze for a moment, instinctively holding my breath. Then I heard a voice that made every muscle in my body tighten. Kelvin. Open the door right now. My mother. I didn't move. I didn't answer. I just stared at the door like it was something alive. She pounded again. You owe me an explanation. After everything I've done for you, this is how you repay me. Everything she's done for me? I nearly laughed out loud. Another voice joined hers. My brother Jason. Dude, just open the door so we can talk. Talk. There was no talk with my mother. There was only accusation and guilt until you bent. This time, I didn't bend. I said nothing. Not even a whisper. My mother continued. We're not leaving until you come out. You embarrassed me in front of the whole family. Embarrassed her? Because I moved out after she kicked me out? My chest burned with a mix of fury and disbelief. For the first time in years, I realized something powerful. I wasn't scared of them anymore. I wasn't dependent. I wasn't cornered. I wasn't under their roof. I had my own door, my own lock, my own life. So I simply walked into my bedroom, closed the door and waited. They kept shouting for almost 20 minutes. Threats, accusations, guilt trips. At one point I heard my mom shout, if he doesn't come out, we'll tell everyone he stole from us. I stopped breathing for a second. Stole? Me? The person who was paying for everything? That was her next move, lie bigger. Eventually, their voices faded down the hallway. The elevator dinged. Silence returned. And I exhaled. The turning point. That night, I realized something important. You don't truly know a person's heart until you stop being useful to them. I had stopped paying their bills. Stopped carrying the household. Stopped being their financial safety net. And immediately, I became the villain. But I wasn't broken. I wasn't guilty. I wasn't confused. For the first time, I saw them clearly. And for the first time, I knew exactly what I had to do next. Because their visit wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning of the truth finally coming to light. The morning after my mother and brother pounded on my apartment door like bounty hunters, I expected another wave of drama. More calls. More texts. More accusations. But instead, there was silence. A sharp, eerie silence that felt less like peace and more like the calm before something ugly. I could feel the storm gathering, even if I couldn't see it yet. And I was right. At 10 a.m. my phone buzzed. Not with a message. Not with a voice note. But a video call. From my Aunt Clara. The one person in the family who usually stayed neutral. Her timing alone told me something was wrong. When I answered, her face filled the screen. Eyes wide, lips tight, like someone who didn't know how to start. Kelvin, honey. I need to ask you something, she said gently. Here we go. What's going on? I asked. She hesitated. Deep breath. Eyes shifting like she was preparing herself. Your mother is telling the entire family group chat that you moved out because you were caught stealing money from her. I closed my eyes. There it was. The lie she'd threatened at my door the night before. Delivered right on schedule. My stomach didn't drop. My heart didn't race. I didn't panic. I just felt tired. Bone deep tired. Aunt Clara, I said calmly. I didn't steal anything. I paid for everything. The mortgage. The utilities. The food. Even Christmas dinner. She blinked, confused. But she said. I have proof, I said, cutting gently but firmly. And I'm done covering for her. The words came out clearer than I expected. Stronger. Like they'd been waiting years to be spoken. What followed was silence. Long, heavy, and full of understanding. When she finally spoke, her voice cracked with something like regret. I believe you. Those 3 words hit me harder than the lie itself. Because no one in my family had said that to me in years. That afternoon, I did something I never thought I would do. I opened the family group chat. A place I'd avoided since the Christmas meltdown. And right at the top was my mother's message. We're devastated. Kelvin betrayed us. He took money from the household and ran away. Please pray for us. With crying emojis. Heartbreak emojis. The whole sympathy circus. And the replies. My aunts. My uncles. My cousins. All of them sending prayers and comforting words. For her. Not one person had asked for my side. Not one person had even questioned the claim. I didn't waste time replying. I didn't argue. I didn't insult. I didn't rant. Instead, I dropped one single message into the chat. 30 screenshots. Bank transfers. Receipts. Payment confirmations. Mortgage statements with my name on every monthly payment. Utility bills paid from my account. Grocery orders. House repairs. Every expense I'd covered for an entire year. Followed by one text. Here's the truth. Draw your own conclusions. Then I muted the chat. I didn't need to watch the chaos. I didn't need to see the excuses. I didn't need to hear the sudden silence from people who had been loud 5 minutes earlier. I had said everything without typing a single insult. Facts speak louder than drama. 2 hours later, my phone began exploding. Not with anger. Not with insults. But with apologies. Cousins. Aunts. Even my brother Jason who sent. Bro. I didn't know. I'm sorry. Mom told us you were taking advantage of her. I didn't reply. Let them sit with the truth. But one message stood out above the rest. A voice note. From my mother. Her voice was shaky. Small. Cracked at the edges. Kelvin, why would you do this? Why would you humiliate me like this in front of the family? Humiliate her? For telling the truth? She continued. You've always been so sensitive. You should have talked to me first. I laughed bitterly. Talk. Like on Christmas when she blindsided me? Like yesterday when she hammered on my door accusing me of betrayal? No. Talking wasn't the problem. Honesty was. I didn't respond to her either. Some people don't deserve access to your voice. Not after they've spent years using it against you. That evening, someone knocked on my door. My heart jumped. Fear? Anger? Expectation? But it wasn't my mother. It was Aunt Clara, standing there with a casserole and an expression that said more than words ever could. I'm not here to lecture, she said softly. I just wanted to check on you. Her kindness hit me harder than all the chaos. We talked for almost an hour. She didn't judge. She didn't defend my mother. She listened. And for the first time, someone in my family finally said the truth aloud. You've carried them for too long, Kelvin. It's okay to put the weight down. Word spread fast. And while some relatives stayed loyal to my mother's version, most began to distance themselves from the lie. The family dynamic shifted. Not because I fought. Not because I confronted. Not because I begged to be heard. But because the truth, once revealed, doesn't go back into hiding. The next few days felt unreal, like the air around me had changed. Not lighter. Not heavier. Just different. Like the universe had quietly rearranged the furniture in my life while I slept. For the first time in years, I woke up without that familiar heaviness in my chest. The one that whispered, you owe them. Don't upset them. Carry the weight. Be the responsible one. But now, for the first time, I wasn't carrying anything. I made coffee in silence, enjoying the simple sound of the mug hitting the table instead of my mother shouting from the hallway. It was peaceful. And that peace didn't feel empty. It felt earned. The family civil war. The family group chat had gone eerily quiet since the receipt drop. But silence on the surface doesn't mean calm underneath. My cousin sent me screenshots privately. Apparently, my mom had tried to defend herself, saying I faked the receipts, that I was brainwashed, that I was turning the family against her. But the family wasn't buying it. Not this time. My Aunt Linda wrote, why did you tell us he was stealing when he was paying everything? My uncle replied, you should have been thanking him, not throwing him out. Then my favorite message, Kelvin deserves an apology. That one must have burned. My mother didn't reply again. Not in the group chat. Not to me. Not anywhere. She had gone dark. And I knew exactly what that meant. She was embarrassed, cornered, and calculating her next move. Because people like my mother don't reflect. They blame. They rewrite. They twist the story until they're the victim again. And I had just ruined her favorite narrative. Kelvin, the ungrateful child. My brother shows up. Around 6 p.m., someone knocked on my door. For a moment I froze. Part of me expected my mother again, ready with another story, another accusation. But when I looked through the peephole, it was Jason. My brother. He wasn't angry. He wasn't smirking. He wasn't rehearsing a speech. He just looked defeated. When I opened the door, he didn't even try to come in. He just stood there holding a small grocery bag. I brought dinner, he said awkwardly. Didn't know if you'd eaten. Not an apology. Not an excuse. A peace offering. I stepped aside and he walked in. The apartment felt different with him in it. Quieter. Less tense. Like he carried his own exhaustion into the room. We ate on the couch, awkward, quiet, both of us avoiding eye contact. But halfway through his plate he finally spoke. Kelvin, Mom lied to us. I didn't answer. He continued, voice cracking. She told us you were freeloading. That you were draining her. That she was drowning because of you. We believed her. I believed her. Then he looked up. I'm sorry. 2 words. Simple. But heavy. Because my brother had always followed her lead. Always defended her. Always chosen her narrative over the truth. Hearing him break away, even slightly, felt like a crack of daylight through a thick wall. I nodded. Not forgiving. Not forgetting. Just acknowledging. It's okay, I said softly. Now you know. He swallowed hard. She wants me to stop talking to you, he admitted. But I won't. I'm tired too. That hit deeper than I expected. Maybe I wasn't the only one she'd drained. The call that changed everything. Later that night, after Jason left, my phone rang. Not a message. Not a voice note. A call. From a number I didn't know. When I answered, a firm voice said, Is this Kelvin? Yes. This is Mr. Hughes. Your mother's landlord. My stomach tightened. I just wanted to inform you, he continued, that your mother received an eviction warning today. I blinked. Stunned. Evicted? Why? She hasn't paid the mortgage in 3 months, he explained. She told us you would cover it, like you always had. There it was. The ugly truth behind the truth. My mother hadn't just relied on me. She had depended on me, expected me, banked on me, and when I walked away, the house of cards collapsed. I exhaled slowly. I'm not responsible for her payments anymore, I said. I know, the landlord replied gently. I just thought you deserved to know the whole picture. When the call ended, I didn't feel guilty, or relieved, or vindicated. I felt sad. Sad that she'd rather lose everything than admit she needed me. Sad that she'd rather lie than apologize. Sad that she turned help into obligation. And obligation into betrayal. But also, I felt something else. Freedom. Because for the first time, her downfall wasn't my responsibility. The message from Emma. Just past midnight, my phone buzzed again. A text. From my mother. 7 words. No insults. No accusations. Just raw desperation disguised as anger. Fine. Do whatever you want. We're done. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I turned off my phone, set it on the table, and whispered into the quiet room. We've been done for a long time. The following Saturday, I stood outside my apartment building, hands in my pockets, breathing in the crisp winter air. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't scared. I was ready. The knock on the door came exactly at 4 p.m. I opened it to see my mother standing there, her face pale, shoulders tense, and a mixture of fear and anger in her eyes. You need to let me in, she said, her voice trembling just slightly. I stepped aside silently. No words. No explanations. Just the calm authority I'd been building all week. Once inside, she didn't sit. She didn't even glance at the kitchen. She stood, arms crossed, trying to hold herself upright like a queen whose kingdom had crumbled. Kelvin, this has gone too far, she said. Her voice wavered. Her carefully constructed persona was cracking. I leaned against the counter, sipping my coffee. I've done nothing but live my life, I replied evenly. My responsibility ended the day you decided to push me away. Her jaw tightened. I raised you, she spat, almost defensively. You owe me everything. I didn't flinch. Instead, I walked slowly toward the living room, letting her words hang in the air like dust. I paid your bills, your mortgage, your groceries for a year. I kept this family afloat while you lied, manipulated, and threw your own child aside. And now you want gratitude. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. The words I expected didn't come. Instead, she tried guilt. You've ruined this family. I shook my head. No. You've already ruined it. I just chose to walk away instead of staying and letting it consume me. Her eyes filled with tears, real, not the kind she showed for show. And for a brief moment, I saw the woman I once hoped she could be. But it was fleeting. You don't understand, she whispered. I understand perfectly, I said. You built a life on control and expectation. I gave you everything you asked for and more. And in return, you tried to erase me. The room was silent for a long time. The tension thickened. I could hear the hum of the heater, the faint sound of cars outside, and nothing else. Then finally I spoke. I forgive you. Not because I condone what you did, but because I refuse to let your actions define me anymore. Her shoulders sagged. She couldn't argue. She couldn't fight. She had lost the power she always wielded so easily over me. You think this ends here? She muttered. No, I said. It ends the way it should have ended a long time ago. With honesty. With boundaries. With me choosing my peace. I walked toward the door, keys in hand, and paused. This is goodbye. And I mean it. Her face twisted with disbelief, sorrow, and anger all at once. But I didn't look back. I stepped out into the cold air. For the first time in my life, I wasn't running. I wasn't hiding. I wasn't pleading for recognition or love that would never come. I was free. As I walked down the street, I felt it. The weight of years lifted, replaced with clarity and strength. The betrayal no longer stung. The anger no longer controlled me. The silence I carried for so long finally became a shield, not a chain. Behind me, the apartment building sat quiet. Inside, my mother realized she had lost more than control. She had lost the chance to understand the person I had become. And I realized something else. Family revenge isn't about breaking people who hurt you. It's about reclaiming yourself, your dignity, and your life. That day, I didn't just walk away. I stepped into my own power. And nothing, and no one, could take it from me. The sun broke through the clouds above, and I felt it on my face, warm, steady, and real. I was whole. I was free. And I was unstoppable. Thanks for watching till the end. Please do well to subscribe, like, and comment where you are watching from.